Ferenz, the head women's basketball coach, associate AD, and senior woman administrator at Whitman College. Thanks for the time, Coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Gavin. Thank you for
Yeah,
reaching out.
yeah, absolutely. Just tell me, how's the off season been, and how was your summer?
Uh, Summer was good. It was a little as always busy. A lot of travel, a lot of recruiting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just trying to get started on next year, camps and such. And yeah, but it went well. It went well. Always seems to go too fast, but it's good to have the players back. We've been in class for about a month, so
yeah,
doing workouts. So
yeah. That's great. So summer, even though class is not in session, you still remain busy, with recruiting and other things.
yeah, our location, recruiting for us, I mean, nothing's close to Walla Walla, Washington.
Yeah,
West Coast is pretty spread out. And so for us, it's the travel involved with recruiting. I mean, we have to get ourselves to California and to Vegas, to sometimes to Chicago. There's very few large recruiting tournaments that are, I don't know, they're just not close. Closest ones are within or a 4 or 5 hour drive. So we spend a lot of time on the road during July. So
yeah. So your upcoming season begins in about a month in November. So just what do you look forward to with the upcoming season in about a month?
yeah, what I look forward to is it's just going to be a completely new adventure. We graduated five
Mhm.
seniors who were, ended up being like our winningest class ever. Had some COVID kids in there. So, but we were really defined by them. They were a great class, great group. We were just really defined by that group, how we played. And so we don't have a single senior on the roster. We didn't have a junior on the roster last year. We were all seniors and sophomores. So but we're very different. Just a
Yeah,
different type of a little more interchangeable. Lots of kids who can play various positions. So it's just going to be a different coaching challenge. But I've been doing it a long time, and sometimes it's just kind of fun to have something different, play a different
yeah.
way. And we're gonna have to play a different way, especially offensively. So.
hmm Yeah, you pretty much just answered my next question, but how do you think your team will look this season? Given four first years and no seniors on your roster, just how do you think your team will look?
I honestly, I think we're gonna be okay, but it's gonna take us a little while to figure out who we are. I think
Mhm.
we don't have a lot of depth either. We only have 11 players, so um, we need to stay healthy. But it's a great our first. We have four first years who can play for us. I mean, they're going to be able to contribute right away. I just think it's kind of figuring out. I'm not really worried about a pretty good idea of how we'll be defensively and some of the things we need to do there. I think it's just figuring out kind of how offensively we're going to change. We're going to have to
Okay.
spread it out more. Um, we used last year, we had Corinne Baker and we had Lindsay Drango and they were 6 foot 6'1", our 4 and our 5 are starting 4'5", and then we went really short. Our perimeters were really, really small.
Mhm.
So where we had mismatches was really on the perimeter, and we just don't have that this year. We're taller across the board. We just don't have a dedicated post. So it's gonna be different. But it'll be fun to see how this group comes together and how they develop, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm I'm
So you've
really
been coaching
excited.
for many years, and I'm sure you know that every year is a new year, but this will particularly be, definitely a learning curve, I guess, if that's correct, given that, your roster will
Yeah.
be different with, no seniors and four first years.
Yeah.
So I want to go
Definitely.
into last season. Your team went 27-2 overall, 16-0 in conference play, and you won the NWC championship over George Fox. So just how special was last season up until the NCAA tournament?
It was one of those years where, we kind of had the target on our back all year. The it's always hard to be the team that's picked. We are nationally ranked from the get-go. And so, you just have to approach it you can't let it get to you. You just have to play the games. You got to have fun. And I think we did a really good job of that. We took some great trips. Went out to New York and to Rochester, played Rochester at their tournament, University of Rochester, played at Geneseo, SUNY Geneseo, went down, played, some SCIAC opponents in California. Really, really got out and tried to broaden what's the word for it? Our resume, I guess, just really
Yeah.
trying to not only put ourselves on the national map, but give our region and our conference, some credentials nationally because it's hard because we're kind of isolated out here, the Northwest Conference, especially us and the SCIAC, a little bit Texas, our region just doesn't, we don't get the crossover that a lot of the other regions do just because of geography. So, we really wanted to build that national resume. Kids handled it great, and it wasn't easy sometimes, you gotta stay healthy, you gotta stay a little lucky. And it was, we didn't lose a D3 game until we got into the tournament. So our only other loss was to an NAIA team, a nationally ranked NAIA team, but just down the road from here, Lewis and Clark State, who we play pretty regularly. But that was our only loss up to that point. So it was a great season. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, we were really we had a great group of seniors. So but we try to have fun every year. So it's
Yeah.
not about winning. It's about getting better. And that's always really the challenge when you have a veteran team like we had last year with so much back, was to get better. And how we got better is our sophomores really developed. We got now they're our junior class, but our sophomore class really developed, and we were able to play and go to our bench when we needed to pick me up, when we needed to do some things differently that, the year before when they were only freshmen, it was a little harder. So that's how we got better. I mean, that was really the reason I think we were able to go undefeated up until the tournament. So
Yeah.
we could go there. We could go there. And they gave us great minutes. We really had great contributions across the board.
Yeah. Then unfortunately, you had a great season and your team lost to Wisconsin Stout in the second round of the NCAA tournament. So just what
Yeah.
was the takeaways from that, second round game against Wisconsin Stout?
We really, probably the thing that stuck or still sticks with me was, we really had built the resume to host, and we were really upset about not being a host school. So, the NCAA decided not to come out to Walla Walla
Oh,
and just let Whitman host, which, um, we had a number 5 MPI ranking. We were ranked as high as 4 in the national polls, which, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. That's just coaches voting, but still, we had really built the resume. And so we were really upset about not getting to host. And nothing against UW Stout. I mean, they were obviously a very good team, made it to the Final Four. So it was a tough, tough draw for us. And we played them tight, played them close, and we just couldn't get over the hump. From that perspective, that, had we been at home, probably a different outcome, maybe a different scenario. But so that was hard. But I think, in the end, I think our players felt like they had done pretty much everything they could to have an amazing season. And that's all you can really carry with you. We had a lot of fun. Wasn't We were really hoping to get ourselves a couple more rounds. And I think we were capable. We were a very good team, and did a lot of things right. And I think we represented our conference really, really well. I think our conference we kind of beat up on each other. Outside of us, the other teams kind of beat up on each other. They split, or certain teams beat other teams. But, so we didn't look great record wise, but the depth in our conference is good. I mean, there's a lot of good
yeah.
teams. It was just we were the dominant team. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that just helps build the reputation of the conference, so that possibly we can, continue to be on the national radar, I guess is the word.
Yeah. So unfortunately, as you mentioned, you weren't able to host at the NCAA tournament, but speaking about hosting, you do host the Kim Evander Rainey Memorial Classic. I hope I got that right. Your home
Yeah.
tournament in November. So can you just tell me about, this tournament?
The Kim Evangerini Memorial is very near and dear to our hearts. It's in a tournament that so Kim Evanger played for me my very first year at Whitman. She was a senior. Very good player who had just suffered, I don't know how to say it. Just every little injury, knee injuries, whatever. Had played through a lot of injuries. Had a really good senior year, but at times we used to kid her that she played on one leg. Kind of that kind of person. But just absolutely a great team leader. Anyway, unfortunately she was killed in a bicycle accident. Um, in 2007. And one of the things we did as our alumni really wanted to do something to honor her. And so we put together the Kim Vangarini Classic, Memorial Classic. And so it's really become our signature event. It's well supported. We have great sponsorship in town. We have a couple hotels that work with us. Community really gets behind it. So we really try to bring in we're able to bring in great teams because we have some financial support to do so. And so last year, we had, great team from, we had East Texas Baptist up here, a very good team that made the tournament. this year we've got another Texas school, St. Thomas, Texas, and then we have Wisconsin school. We have Platteville, you know Platteville. So all Wisconsin schools are always really tough. So it's kind of become a it's an event that's just our kids really embrace it. It's something the community really supports, and it means a lot to I guess every campus kind of has their events and this is our event in the winter. This is really is something that faculty and staff and our student body really get behind. So and it's our only two home games of the preseason. So we're on the road the rest of the preseason. This is basically our only two home games until January.
Well, well,
So
that's a
yeah.
great way to, honor Kim, and it's great that you have teams all the way from Texas and Wisconsin that are, able to, come all the way up to Washington and play in your home tournament. So, just to answer what you said, you're mostly preseason be on the road. How do you think that'll be, mostly playing your preseason, mostly, on the road?
It's gonna be hard, but we're used to travel. We're not close. Like I said, you come to Whitman, it's a wonderful Wall is a beautiful area. It's a beautiful community, but we're just isolated, and so we're used to travel. It's not an easy schedule. I mean, we're going to Texas to play Mary Hard Baylor to start, and Concordia, so we're doing that trip first, and then we've got a trip to Colorado College, returning that trip. Somebody we play quite often. We usually match up with Colorado College. They're kind of in the same boat we are. They're a very good D3 school. But yeah, it's going to be challenging. I think there's also the balancing with such a young team, balancing the academics of being on the road. So we are going to have to stay on top of that just because kids are going to miss class. But yeah, it's it's not an ideal schedule to develop a young team, but I think we'll figure it out. I mean, we'll find ways to get better. And that's what's really about. We just need to get better. We need to find out who we are and get better so that when we get back after the winter break and we start conference play the second and third January. That's where we really need to be ready. That's who we've got to work on improving and embracing, the conference play. So yeah, so it's not ideal, but it is what it is. It's not unusual. We've had years like this before. So
Yeah. So, Coach, can you just tell me a little about Whitman College and just how special it is to you and your family? I know because you've been coaching there since 2001, and I believe your husband is also a volunteer coach on the women's basketball team. So, just tell me about your
yeah.
college and just how special it is to you.
Well, we came here. So my husband and I coached high school for about 10 years, in a little town, Okanogan, and took a little hiatus over to Western Washington where he coached for a year. And then this job opened up. And the reason I even found out about it is I had a player from Okanogan go here and play for a couple of years. And I applied, and my husband has some history. He had coached back at Swarthmore, kind of back on your coast in Pennsylvania
Mm.
for a few years. He'd been an assistant back there. So kind of had it through him, had an idea about how special schools like, Swarthmore, Whitman, really academic Division threes. He had a great experience, so he encouraged me. And yeah, we've been here for this is my 25th year. He's now the high school athletic director at Wawa High School. He coached out there for a while. He's always helped us. And the community it's I don't know how to say it. It's just kind of Walla Walla is really special. It's not huge. It's only about 30,000 people, but it's there's just so many great things. It's a wine venue, a wine destination. So there's a lot of people coming for tourism. But when you get here, it's just it's in the if you're familiar with Washington State, they always talk about being on the Palouse. We're on the other side of the Palouse. We're on the other side of the Blue Mountains from Washington State. So it's just that same type of really open skies and rolling hills. Lots of great outdoor opportunities. Like we took our team the first weekend we were here, took them paddleboarding. About an hour, we just went to a lake here and spent the day paddleboarding just to kind of embrace the location and just have a fun day to kind of start our whole year together. So yeah, well, it's been a great place. We've obviously raised our family here, and in Whitman really attracts high quality players, high quality kids that take their academics seriously, but we've been able to build a program because it wasn't a great program when I got it. I mean, they were really struggling, but we've been able to build a program where we can attract student athletes who not only want, the academic side of things, really good academics, but also want the challenge of playing in a nationally ranked basketball program. They want both.
Mm.
And I think there's only a handful of schools that can consistently say that they can offer both of those things. And most of those schools are back, you're in your neck of the woods. I mean, they're back on the East Coast, they built
Yeah.
those. And so we've kind of that was always our goal, is just to establish ourselves that way. And I think we've done that. And so but what's kept me here, honestly, I get to coach great kids. And they're all, I always tell them they're all smarter than me. So, they're all doctors, and I've won at Harvard Law, surgeons, astrophysicists, and they also just love the game. They love being part of a team. And so it's been really rewarding. So,
Yeah.
wasn't sure what I was getting myself into in 2001 because weren't very good. But it's been quite a ride. So, and that's,
Yeah.
I think, why I stayed so long.
So in addition to being head women's basketball coach, you're associate AD and senior woman administrator. Can you just tell me about your, two additional roles and, what you do in those roles?
So I served as the interim for a little while, the athletic director. But the senior women administrator basically is kind of a level where at the conference level, I meet with the other senior women's administrators and really try to work on things that, just in terms of conference-wide things affecting, that might, what's the word for it? I don't know if it's really damaging, but just need to be aware of, changes, things that need to be, bring a perspective in terms of, advocating for female, academic, or not female academic, but female opportunities athletically. And, I think it's a role that the NCAA started, I don't know, 20 years ago. And the idea was just that Title IX needs to have more than just, you can't just have the athletic director. It was the idea that you need other eyes, you need other people that are making sure that we're offering equitable experiences. So that was kind of the reason. And so, to be honest, I just work at the conference level. I work a little bit within the college to do some things, just and with our student athletes. I'm just another person they can go to, or person who can help them with advocacy. So we're not a huge athletic department compared to lots of others. We don't have football. I probably knows we don't have football, we don't have track, we don't have softball, rowing, some of the big roster sports. So we only have like 260 student athletes on campus. So it's a little bit different. I'm sure if we were dealing with larger roster sports, there would be a little bit more administrative work. But to be honest, mine is pretty minimal. Just helping where the department needs me more than anything.
Yeah.
Some scheduling stuff. You know, um, but yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, a lot of this, let's just put it this way, a lot of the senior women's administrators in our conference are full-time administrators because they've got a lot on their plate. I can do it and be a head coach. So it's just a little bit smaller department situation.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, that's great, all the work that you do, coach, as senior woman administrator, and for someone like me who, does what they can, is passionate about, promoting women in sports. I just want to say, you do a great job, and yeah, just thanks for all that you do. So now I want to get into some of your background. You played at Eastern Montana, and then you got into coaching after that. So just tell me about your time at Eastern Montana, playing college basketball, and then just what led you into coaching after that.
So Eastern Montana is now in Montana State Billings. I was the last graduating class that was Eastern Montana, so that's how old I am. That's a long time ago.
Oh,
But
okay.
I loved playing. I had great coaches, high school coaches, great college coaches. I played a couple years at junior college, had a great coach there, and then moved on to Eastern and played for a guy named Frank McCarthy, who ended up for a while he was head coach at Montana State Bozeman. He moved on after he had some great success, and Billings was MSUBE. I always call it MSUBE, but Billings ended up being one of the better Division two schools in the nation. They were ranked for quite a while. He did a great job. Yeah, so I think I always thought I wanted to get into coaching. I was one of those people that would go back and volunteer with their high school over the summer, work camps. Uh, and so when I got done with my teaching degree, I just started applying for jobs, and a lot of them didn't have a head coaching job, but Okanogan did. And Okanogan hired me as an English teacher and head basketball coach, and I was 23 years old. So I always tell people, I always joke, I've never been an assistant. ever. I've just always been the head coach, and I don't know if that like hampered my development or what. I don't know. I mean, because most people work as an assistant for a few head coaches and then move into head coaching, and I just never did that. I just jumped in, and at times it was hard, but I figured it out. And I feel bad for some of those young ladies I coached at Okanoga those first few years because I probably was probably not the best coach for them, but they were pretty patient with me. So, yeah, so I mean, I pretty much consistently, even when I took some time off from teaching when my kids were little, I pretty much coached every season for 30 some, this is my 35th year. So, um, it's been great. I mean, I never thought I'd coach for 35 years. Honestly, if asked 23-year-old me what I was going to do, I'll coach for a few years and I'll do something else. But I just every year I have to find a reason to come back. So the reason, just I love it. It's challenging. It's never gets it's that's the thing I think, maybe young coaches I would tell them if they ask for my advice is I don't think it ever really gets easier. It's always hard. And when you start expecting it to get easier, that's when you kind of lose perspective. I mean, it's always going to be hard and just kind of have to embrace it. There's going to be long hours, there's going to be tough conversations, there's going to be tough losses, and great wins, and everything's so temporary but important, I guess. Because what we're really doing is, especially at our level at Division 3, we're really helping um, we're really helping student athletes develop as people. And they're already leaders, they're already intelligent, but it's really about the confidence and just helping them grow into being able to step out and go to grad school and be successful, professionally successful. So yeah, it's like I said, I never thought I'd be doing it this long. And
Yeah.
I not sure, I don't really have an end game. I don't really have an end in sight at this point. I'm still feel like I've got a few good years left and I'm excited about the season. So we're working hard on recruiting, and yeah, it just yeah, I mean there's a lot of things that are really fun about it. There's a lot of things that aren't, but the fun still wins. Let's put it that way. So the fun outweighs the bad. And so I feel really fortunate to this has been my career. So I feel really fortunate.
Yeah. Mhm. So the 2013-14 season was really special for your team. Your team made it to the championship game of the NCAA tournament. Just, how special was, that season for your team?
We've had a few seasons. I can think of three. Last season was one of them. The 2019-20 team that got cut off by COVID was another one, and then that 2013-14 team where you just really felt like there was something special. And it was again another group. We brought back a really good group of. We had a lot of returners. We had graduated one, I think we graduated two seniors, one who was a starter. And so really high expectations from the get-go. Played just an amazing schedule where we were just challenging ourselves, and we just kept getting better and better. And I really applaud that group for just really staying in the moment. They really stayed in the moment, had a great time doing it, and we got to host first and second round, and then because of an upset in another region, we got to host the sectionals. So we got to the round of 16, the round of 8 here. And I mean, it was packed. It was quite the event. So it was really a special um it was just a special time with a really unique group of student athletes, some super academic kids. I mean, I have one who's a aeronautical engineer on that team. We've got another one who's a surgeon at the Mayo Clinic. You know, others that are nurse practitioners, and it's just was such an academic group too. They really were kind of the epitome of a Division 3 student athlete, and just gone on to do amazing things professionally. But yeah, when I look back at that season, I just think there were just times where I felt like, and this is a good thing for a coach, is I felt like they didn't really need me. They really had absorbed the lessons, and they knew who they were, and they were so in tune with each other. And they just played a high level game in and game out, and really built a bond where they could they solved things. They could have their disagreements, but they just solved things. They just moved on and super competitive. So not everything was peaceful every day, but they were super competitive, but they embraced that about each other. And so, like I said, it was just a team that at times I felt like I could just sit down and enjoy watching them because they really really played the game well, and they
Yeah,
played at a high level. It was fun. And I've had a couple other teams last year that was had a similar vibe. We had just such a veteran team and they played so well together. And the 1920 team where we had we had another great group of seniors, another five seniors that got cut off by COVID. We had gone to Iowa and upset Wheaton and Wartburg, and we got sent to Maine. We're supposed to play Oglethorpe, and then everything got canceled. But again, another team that not perfect all season. The 13-14 team actually was perfect until we got upset in our district in our wait conference tournament by Whitworth, and was actually number one in the nation, which was the first time a Whitman team had ever been number one in the nation in any poll. And we were number one in both the women's basketball coaches poll, and the D3 hoops.com poll. And but that 1920 team had a few bumps. They had lost a game they shouldn't have, whatever, but they just really came together. And and what was really one of our best player, All-American, was out with a concussion. And they went to Iowa and won without her. And so she was back for Maine, but obviously we didn't get to play. So I mean, there's just years as a coach where you just kind of like, okay, this group's got some things figured out. And that's when that's when coaching is really rewarding, because that's when you really, I think, I mean, I always love to see kids improve, but when they really start owning it and they don't need you all the time, they know what they need to do, and they do it at a high level. It's like, okay, I've done my job, and I can sit back and enjoy them. And
yeah,
so, I mean, that's kind of, years where I kind of I look back and I think of those years, and I think those are pretty special. I've had some other great teams who rallied. And I mean, we've been to 8 NC2A tournaments, which Whitman had never been to one until we went in 12-13. So in 2012-13. And so, I mean, it's been a run of just great kids and great opportunities. And, but yeah, maybe I got smarter. I mean, I'd like to think I did. I think I got smarter as I learned some things, but I mean, I mean, I'm excited about this year because I'm just really excited I think this team could get a lot better quickly. I think the potential is really there. So I take that as a challenge as a coach. I mean, that'll be my challenge is how
yeah,
do we get them to believe in themselves? Because I think there's a lot of great tools. So
yeah.
yeah.
So finally, coach, given that you've coached, for many years now, and you take on additional roles, as we've mentioned throughout our conversation within your athletics department, just how special it is to you to not only be a coach, but also to get to work with the student athletes at Whitman. Just overall, how special is it for you?
I teach a coaching class, and last night I had a guest speaker in our coaching class who longtime alum and just has done some amazing things professionally, but he came in and talked because he's a coach and his mentor coaches, and he and I were visiting after the session. And one of the things I said was, I'm continuously impressed with um, student athletes at this level. I think at Division 3, and I've had a daughter who played professionally overseas, and I played D1, and I had another one that played other small college, but I feel like I'm always impressed with our student athletes at Whitman. They're thoughtful, they're good people, and so I enjoy interacting with them, and I hope they get something from my classes, my interactions, anything we do. I hope that we're doing the things to help them develop and build the confidence to take it out when they graduate and they move out from the Whitman bubble. We always call it the Whitman bubble. That they know who they are, and they have they know how to. I always say know how to do hard. They know how to do hard things. They know how to fail and how to succeed. So it's yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's college coaching has changed. And I think, we've had to adapt, but to be honest, student athletes at their core haven't changed that much. I mean, they're still They just want to achieve. They want to work hard. They want to be coached. They want to be supported. They want to be part of something bigger than them. And that hasn't really changed. Some aspects have changed, but not that part. So that makes it fun.